how wide your feet should be, because that's a common question I get, and I feel like a lot of people are just locked into this hip width straight toe thing, and everyone is different, and that's what we're going to find out today. Based on your hip structure and your hip architecture and how you move, everyone is going to be in a slightly different position for what's optimal. Okay, so we're going to go through a couple things just to figure out what maybe the best width is if you're not already familiar with what that is for you. And then the next thing we're going to talk about after that is where our weight should be in our feet. I see a lot of people turning a squat into a hinge and just putting all their weight through their heels. Some of that's because they're nervous about how far their knees are going over their toes, or maybe it's due to a mobility restriction, but that's something we want to try to clean up before we go into any of the mobility stuff. And then that's where things will get hard, mobility section. Cool? Questions, concerns? Does anyone feel like they just hate squats in general? Not from a difficulty standpoint. We all know squats suck because they can be really hard. But does anyone feel like they're always jammed up at the bottom of the squat? Yeah, it's a pretty commonplace, I would say. So the first thing we're going to do is let's just all see how deep we can get in a squat position. So does everyone have shoes on right now? Yeah, shoes on is good to start. We'll maybe lose them later, but everyone on your feet. Let's start there and see how we feel. So, you know, if I'm giving this talk, my movement I guess should be perfect, but feel free to critique me. We're going to just get nice kind of personal bubble. Everyone's good with the 6 foot spacing now. We've had a few years of it, right? So, really good. Cool. So, all I want you guys to do is see how comfortable or how low we can get and hang out at the bottom here. And let's have everyone kind of go as low as you can. You do not want your heels in the air. Okay? So, while we're in this position, some of us are more jammed up than others. What we're going to do is we're going to figure out an appropriate width for your feet. Okay, so for me, I am most comfortable slightly outside of hip width and toes slightly toed out. While you guys are down here, I want you to widen your feet a little bit and see if that makes you slightly more comfortable. What we want to try to find out is what makes you feel like you can sit here in the lowest position possible. Okay, for some people, that's going to be toes straight and narrow, right? For some people, it's going to be toes out and wide, okay? Cool, I want you guys all to try a couple different positions here, and I know I'm testing your strength by hanging out here, but if you feel like you can't get low enough to just hang out on your joints here and not use muscles, you know already for a fact you're going to need some mobility work, right? But we should all be able to be chest up here really easily and be able to have a full discussion down here for as long as we need to, right? So if you can't, we can first adjust the width in the feet, right? That's only going to get us so far. Who feels like they're more comfortable with their toes out slightly? Okay. Who feels they're more comfortable with toes straight? That seems to be you, right? Yeah. So, and that's okay. You guys can all pop up for a second. We're going to come back down and do a retest. And so what I really want you to experiment with two things. And the reason I'm not getting too specific is this is going to be individualized to every person. As we go through other stuff, we'll partner up and be able to work together, but this is more of an individual thing. I want you to really mess around. We're going to do 5 squats total in a second here. Every rep, you're going to either manipulate toe rotation, right? Some people may feel comfortable even like up to a 45-degree angle. I'm kind of, you know, like a 15, 20-degree toed out type of guy. Or I want you to mess with width, right? You have 5 reps to try to do it. And I want you to get the closest to what you feel is the most comfortable, and then we're going to stay there and work from there. Okay, so I want everyone just to try a squat right as low as you can, and then mess with it a little bit, either toes out, try a squat, come back up, maybe toes in a little bit wider, come back up, good, and just try 5. I'll let you sneak in a couple more if you feel like you're on to something. But I want you guys to mess with it, because I think too often people just go to some sort of standardized position. And whether that's because previous coaching, not F45, of course, told them that they have to be really rigid in what they move like, or it's just something they've never really experimented with before. I have a lot of people come to my office with knee and low back pain. Sometimes it can be completely solved just by tweaking foot position, right? So many people jam up their joints by being super narrow. Let your joints do the work, right? Open yourself up a little bit. Does everyone have a position that they think is the most comfortable now after messing around? Yeah, raise your hand if you're good. Okay, so now we're all gonna get back down and hang out again. And I have another little conversation down here. That's actually really good. Yeah, that's good. So again, this is not going to be a solve for everything. You need to work on the mobility part. But there are way more chests up now than there was before, which is really, really, really good. Awesome. Who drastically changed their width based on what they were doing before? Cool. What about toe out? I see a lot more toes out for sure. So like, let your body do what it needs to do, right? Good. All right, let's pop back up. Again, I think so many people are worried about, well, my knees can't go over my toes, or I need to get my hips back. It's okay. Your body is built the way it's built, right? Like there's certainly things that we don't want you to do, and we're going to go through some of that. But your body has joints articulated the way they are for a reason, so let's use them. So I want you guys to use the width and toe position that you just found for the remainder of what we're going to do today. And if it feels better to your body weight, it's going to feel way better once you have some load in your hands, especially during class. Okay, so that's step one, width and feet position. Two is where the heck is our weight in our feet when we're going down and when we're actually repping out squats. The most common thing I see is when people go down, the first movement they do is like they're trying to sit way back in a chair. I even see people, even with shoes, their toes like be in the air as they're going, right? The second your toes go in the air, you eliminate a lot of the muscles in your legs from being able to help you out, right? And then what's going to happen? We're going to have hip flexor, glute, IT band tightness. A lot of that stuff can be solved with a very, very simple tweak. What I tell people, a squat is a down movement, not a back, right? Like we don't want your first thing to be like I'm sitting in a chair. That's getting you more into like a hinging type position, right? I want you guys to think about with your feet, your weight should be right over like where the knuckles of your toes are, kind of right in front of your ankle here, through the entire movement. And usually that changes the movement for a lot of people, right? Compared to I'm sitting back, like so, right? My knees are behind my toes. That's going to really take the toes out of the picture. Versus I'm going straight down, keeping my weight here. See how much farther my knees go over my toes? There's a big stigma for a long time that your knees cannot go over your toes, and that's dangerous. Whoever said that, the executed is wrong. It's not real, right? So we need to start changing that. A lot of people with knee pain have knee pain because they're avoiding that lower position, right? It's not you have knee pain because it can't tolerate it. You need to expose yourself to it even more, okay? So what I want us all to do is we're going to do 10 squats, nice and slow, not as torturous as what they have you guys do here, but I want us all to be very aware of keeping our weight through this section, like right at the bottom of where your shoelaces are. That's where your weight should be the entire time. I should see no toes lifting up in the air, okay? So let's do 10, nice and slow to your own pace. I'm gonna kind of walk around and watch you guys. So those toes should be moving, or the knees should be moving forward over your toes. Especially if you're someone who has some restrictions to the ankles, which is the next thing we're going to do. It's going to be really important for you to keep your weight in the appropriate part of the foot. Really good. Oh man, we got some mobility restrictions in here. We're going to have some fun with the next couple things. Really good. And I don't want you to go too far the other way either. I don't want it to be where your heels start lifting, right? You want your entire foot to stay in contact with the ground the whole time, but a slight shift in weight not only is going to protect your joints a lot better, it'll give you access to strength that you haven't had before, right? The second you put too much weight into those heels, you're going to be losing some of the muscles that help you. Does that make sense? Yeah? Questions about any of that? Other than this squats left, perfect. Yeah, good. All right, so those two small tweaks I want you to keep in the back of your mind as you go through some of the drills, especially as you start to load them later in what we're doing. I want to move through the mobility stuff because that's what most people are here for. So like I said, we're going to expose some people today. We're going to grade every test as like a pass-fail type scenario, okay? If you cannot get to the required level of the drill, you absolutely need to be working on your points. We're not going to be setting tests that are at like an excruciatingly high level. These are kind of my minimum baselines for anyone who's doing really hard exercise like you guys are, right? So if it's something that you can't accomplish, the drills that we're going to do afterwards to help it are absolute must for you guys to do on your own. Cool? It's going to help prevent injury certainly, or at least reduce your risk of it, but even more so it'll help improve your performance, right? You don't want to be coming here and having to waste time, right? Because you're not getting the results that you want. If you can have your body working a little bit more efficiently, you should be able to speed up that process. Cool? So, ankle mobility. Who's assessed and actually works on their ankle mobility as we speak? Cool? As you can see, it's unfortunately a forgotten area of the body, right? People love to stretch their hips and work on that type of stuff. The ankles are one of the most influential pieces for a squat, lunge, hinge, etc. So we're going to do a test. What we're going to do is we're going to find some wall space. But if you guys want to all watch me over here, make sure you can see me. This is going to be the test. We have this really nice black line on the wall here, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to put your toes right to the bottom of that black line, okay? We then need to drive our knee to the wall as far as we can before our foot starts sliding down the wall, like so, right? So if you're here, the only way to get farther is your foot sliding down, that's where you have to stop your knee, okay? So shoes on is good here, it's going to give you a little bit of grip, but the reason we're doing this instead of like you commonly see maybe this assessment is this engages the toes and the arch of the foot, which is really important for your ankle mobility. So we want to see how well those are working too. You should be able to go from here to knee to the wall pretty easily. If you're stuck and can't touch the wall, you need to work on your ankle mobility. Okay, so let's have everyone find some wall space and we'll go through this together here. We'll see how many people I decide to call out. Yep, there's tons of wall space over here. So I want your toes close to the top of that black line, not below that. And if anything, they give you a little slippery, so they give you a little bit more grip if your toes are slightly over. And then I want you all to try to drive your knee to the wall only as far as you can go until your foot starts to slide down. If you feel like you can't even get your foot on the wall, then we need to work double time on ankle mobility. Raise your hand if your knee can touch the wall. Less than 50%, right? That's a really common thing. I think it's one of those things that people don't realize. Let's try the other way. And sometimes it just takes a test for you to see how restricted it is. And you may see stuff different left, right. That's okay. All right, on this other side, raise your hand if you touch your knee to the wall. Even less. Okay. Really, really good. Okay, cool. Come back in. So, like I said, that is an absolute minimum baseline to be able to accomplish squats and high-level movement. If you can't get your knee to the wall, that means your ankle's not giving the mobility that it needs to. For you to do a squat or a lunge, that means it's coming from somewhere else to allow you to accomplish the movement, right? So if it's not coming from your ankle, the next two spots up are usually it's coming from your hip or your back, right? So if somebody feels like you constantly have hip flexor tightness or pain, glute tightness pain, or low back pain, and you couldn't touch your knee to the wall, that may be part of where some of that is coming from, if that makes sense, okay? So I'm not here to just tell everyone that their ankles suck. Let's work on making them better. So the answer is not just stretching them, and that's the hard part about the ankle, right? I see a lot of people doing, like calf stretch type movements, and not that that's bad after like a heavy jumping day or something like that, but the reason most people can't access this range of motion during movement is they don't have the control or stability through that area, especially when their knees are over their toes. So we need to come up with some drills that are much more active in nature. have the mobility just messing around and stretching on the table, right? I care if you actually use it when you want to use it, okay? So this drill, everyone's gonna get in a half kneeling position, and for my own left and right purposes, let's start on the right leg. I do not do well with that. So let's have the right leg out in front for me if possible. Yeah, right leg out in front. Good. So again, the position that we want you to work and be comfortable in is this knee over toe position, right? This is the position of your knee when you're in the bottom of the squat. So we need to bring you there and then give you a bunch of strength and control around it. Okay, so you guys can watch me first because there's a couple steps to this and then we'll all go through it together. But what we're gonna do is you guys are gonna kind of lean through that front knee a little bit just to kind of put your elbows so you're leaning forward. And then we're gonna drive our knee as far forward as we feel comfortable balance-wise. Some people will be able to go farther. I don't want you to have to use a hand though, okay? So shifting forward, once we're here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take that front part of our foot and we're gonna push it like a gas pedal down into the ground. We're not lifting our heel or anything crazy, but we're trying to push it down. Nothing's actually gonna happen, right? You're gonna feel the muscles turn on. We're gonna be pushing it down for 10. After that, this knee stays in this position. We're now gonna try to lift our toes in the air. And we're gonna lift, and some of you may not have any toe movement. Some we may be able to see a little bit of toe lifting. You're gonna feel a lot of muscle activity on the front of the shin for 10. Then we're gonna keep that lift as we roll back onto our heel. Okay, so the steps are driving forward, pushing down into the ground with the front of that foot for 10, lifting those toes in the front of that foot up for 10, keeping that lift as we roll backwards. Does that make sense? I get a ton of burn in front of my chin when I do this, so you guys may feel that. You guys may feel a lot of calf stuff happening. That's okay. We're trying to get all the muscles around the joint to work and give you as much stability in this end range position as possible. Okay, so what we're gonna do, 5 on each side. We'll walk through it, I'll count out loud. So again, we're starting with that right foot, driving that knee forward, and we're pushing down with that front half of that foot, like you're trying to gas pedal into the ground. Keep pushing. Please don't hold your breath. Oxygen's important for us. Keep breathing. 2, 1. Now keep your knee there. Lift your toes up. Lift your toes up. Lift them. Lift them. High as you can. Lift. Lift. Keep that lift and roll back onto your heel. Okay? We're going to do that again, but I want you guys to really think about, and this is the hardest part, when we're here and we're lifting that toe, when you roll back onto that heel, what I want you to try to avoid is don't let your knee slide back and then your foot lift. Try to let them happen together, right? So toes lifting. See how I try to keep that angle there, right? I'm not here and then shift back and then lift. Try to have it work together if possible. Okay, so let's do it again, right side. Ready, and we're driving forward, and we're pushing that foot down into the ground, pushing, 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 really good. Drive that knee over that toe. Now we're lifting those toes up. Don't let that knee roll back, just lift those toes up. Lift, lift, lift.
Got a question.
Yeah.
I suffer for plantar fasciitis, right?
Yeah.
So this
Home run for you. No. Oh, it's hurting you. Okay, gotcha. It's good for you. Let me give you my and roll back. And shake it out. Good. Let's get right back into it. One more on this side. Shifting that knee over.
Where you go? In your spot. Yeah, right there.
And pushing down.
So
You feel it
feet.
just when you push down.
Yeah. So when you get out,
Yeah.
so like for you, things that turn up.
Yeah. Yeah. And lifting those toes. You're going to want to do something like that. Lift those toes. And rolling back. Good. When you push down on that calf, the calf's going to activate it. I mean, if it's that painful, we should work on it. But in general, anything that's calf activated is going to flare you up.
So yeah, when I do a lot of, and I'm in the ball of my feet.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll talk after.
Yeah. Yes.
Good.
Thanks.
People feel cramping their muscle burn when they're doing that drill. Yeah. So like, it's not just about the mobility too. Yeah. So, you know, it can fluctuate. I had everyone start with 10 seconds, right? So when you guys do get an email, it'll have sets, reps, seconds, all that kind of stuff. So generally shift the knee forward, push down for 10, lift up for 10, roll back, and repeat. The good news is, when you're doing stuff like this, you don't need a lot of reps, right? Like 5 reps is all you really need each side, and then you move on to the next thing, right? You don't have to spend 15, 20 minutes working on this stuff because you're being really, really specific into what's happening. All right, so we don't walk in circles. Let's balance the other side. Let's go left foot forward. Same thing. We'll work on this together. Ready? So we're leaning over that front knee and driving forward as far as we can. And then we're pushing down for 10. Pushing into the ground. Pushing into the ground. Push, push, push. Good. Keep that knee driven forward and lift those toes up. I want to see some toes moving. There we go. Good, good, good. Keep that lift and keep that angle and roll back out of that heel now. There it is. And shake it out and reset. Good job. Cool. A lot more rounds on this side. Good job. All right, so we're driving that knee forward. Driving forward and we're pushing down for 10. Good job. Yeah, now we got it. You know, it's positions that you just may not get in very often, and we're lifting those toes up. Keep that knee driven forward. And outside of just exposing yourself to that position, you gotta make you work hard. The harder you're pressing, the more effective it's gonna be. Keep those, and we're rolling back. Good job. We got 2 more on this side. All right, I'm gonna let you guys go at your own pace now. I want you guys to be independent with this. Driving that knee forward, press down for 10. Lift those toes up for 10, and then rolling back on that heel. Really good. Yeah, we should get that knee pretty far over those toes when we drive forward. Good. One more for everyone, and once you're done, pop up on your feet so I know where we're at. We're getting better at it already, though. I see more knees over toes. Good job. And shake it out. Put some weight through those feet. We just did some work there. Good job. So here's the thing, you know, there's a lot of different things you can do for your ankle. I think a lot of times people overcomplicate it. That assessment that we did can also turn into a drill, right? You get a really good grip on a wall, you drive forward, and you hold that position 30 seconds or so, right? That's more of like that passive stretch to try to open up some range of motion. Go from that drill into this half-kneeling one. Now you're controlling that end range of motion, right? To improve mobility and have it carry over, you need both sides of the puzzle. You can't just be stretching and getting massages. You need the active side of it, right? So that drill that we did for the assessment turns into another drill where you can shift forward, hold 30 seconds, and then you come into that half kneeling 5 reps. Cool? Does that make sense to everyone? You know, again, it doesn't seem like it's revolutionary, but if you can put in some work and do that for 2-3 weeks in a row, things will change pretty drastically for you, right? It's not something that changes overnight. Sorry, there's no immediate gratification there, but nothing good comes without some work, right? So that's the type of thing that I want you guys to think about working on. It doesn't have to be necessarily right before or after you do exercise. It just needs to happen consistently over time, right? You can still do your stretching after you exercise. Obviously, you guys go through a great dynamic warm-up before you exercise here. This can kind of be in its own separate category, just trying to make some improvements. Cool? Good. That's the ankle. The hip is the cramper. So, if you're prone to cramping, take some deep breaths. The movement that we're going to look at for the hip is called internal rotation of the hip, okay? Which is basically rotating inwards. What is the thing you guys do most of? A lot of glute work, right? Your glute is an external rotator. You guys work your glutes so much, which is great. Great power muscle. The problem is when you're dropping into a squat, you actually need the opposite movement to help you, which is internal rotation of the hip. If you're someone who thinks you always need to foam roll your glutes and stretch your glutes, internal rotation of the hip is going to be the drills that will be your savior as well, right? So we're going to be able to reduce the muscle tone here and improve the depth of your squat, okay? So we're going to test some stuff. Let's test it in, let's see, let's go into a 90-90 position. So if you guys are not familiar, we're going to have our right leg out in front of us, and you guys are going to try to mirror me here. This may be a challenging position for you guys to even be comfortable in if your hips are really, really tight. But our goal is knee right in front of our chest, knee at 90 degrees, ankle at 90 degrees. Our back leg straight out to the side, knee at 90 degrees, ankle at 90 degrees. Okay? Already cramping there? Yeah, so a lot of people, their back leg, this is putting you in kind of just resting internal rotation of the head. It is uncomfortable for many people because your glutes are really tight and your body says, what the heck is that position? And it doesn't want you to be there for very long. The cramp is more protective in nature, right? It wants to get you out of the position. So if you're cramping already just from being here, you can drop to an elbow on that side. That'll allow you to tolerate a little bit more. Otherwise, I want just weight kind of through this outside hand here, okay? So what I want you to do is our chest is going to be up nice and tall, and our test for the hip is going to be working on the back leg, okay? So when you do the test, what you're going to do is you're going to take both hands, split that front knee, nice and tall with that chest. I should be able to read, if you imagine a logo on your chest, I should be able to read that on everyone. And then what we're going to do is we're going to keep this back knee down, and we're going to lift your foot in the air. My minimum baseline is you should be able to be in a split knee position, lift and hold, and be 6 inches in the air. If you feel like you cannot do that, which is a large majority of the room, hip internal rotation, hip mobility is something we're going to want to work on, okay? So again, let's try it. So split that front knee, chest up nice and tall, and then keeping that back knee down, we're going to lift that back foot up as high as we can. Really good, really good. Struggling or who cramped? Yeah, now we're talking. Good, relax like that. Awesome, awesome job. So again, my minimum for anyone who's doing hard exercise is that foot should be able to lift 6 inches in the air. And honestly, just like being down here, you should be able to hang out there with that foot in the air and just not be super concerned about it, okay? If that's a challenge. Yeah, go ahead.
What if it don't move at all?
Yeah.
It ain't uncomfortable just sitting here, but it don't move.
Great question. So that's why I think it's important to do more than just stretching, right? Because he has the joint mobility to be there, right? It's not uncomfortable for him to be there, but as soon as we activate the muscles in that position, nothing's happening, right? Which tells me he'll have no ability to use that range of motion in his exercise when he needs it, right? So that's just the drill. We're going to go through some things to help you lift that foot and how to modify it in a second. But let's try the other side. So we're going to go left foot forward. The hip specifically is an area of the body that tends to have a lot of asymmetry, right? So you may feel a lot of difference left to right here, but let's all make sure we're set up. So front knee right in front of the chest, 90 degrees with that ankle. Same thing with that back leg. I see a lot of people that back knee is drifting up pretty far. It should be straight out to the side from you. So I don't want that knee too close to your front heel. I want it really spaced out there. Good. And now we're going to split that front knee with our hands, chest up tall, and then we're going to lift that back foot. You guys can see my right hip is not as good as my left, right? Good. Lifting, and then relax. And then let's try it again. So kind of see and lift. Give me hold the internal rotation back there. Good job. We all want to model some. Look at that. Great. Good. 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 Not so much over here. And relax. Cool. Awesome. So that's your drill. And I really like it because it's an easy position for you to get in on your own, check it, and see where you're at. Right? So we're going to go through some drills and stuff to help that right now. And that's a really good test that you can do in a couple weeks. Get in that position, lift that back foot, see if we're at that 6 inch mark where we need to be. Got it? crampy, like I said. If you guys want to shake out of that position for a second, put your legs in half straight. So, while you're resting, because I'm not here to torture you too much with cramps, just like the ankle assessment turned into what can be a drill where you're driving that knee, that 90-90 position can also be that, right? So I have two drills that I really like in that position that can help improve what you're doing. Specifically what we just did for the assessment, we can also make a drill where we need to have some regressions and some progression for people who are already pretty good at that position, okay? So I'll show you guys, we'll start there because we're familiar with that now, what the 3 levels are, right? So if we're here, I consider the easy level to be both hands outside the thigh. So you're kind of rotated away from that back leg, okay? So that's easy level. Intermediate is where we just were, right? Intermediate is where I think everyone should be able to be, and that's splitting that front knee. Expert level, hands out to the side, and lifting that back foot, right? So, yeah. So here's the thing. In any of those positions, when we actually go through the reps, you should not have movement of your torso. That's a compensation for lack of mobility in your hip. So if you are here and you're like, oh, I can lift it, right? But you're having to shift way over, we need to regress to a different position, okay? For most of you who couldn't do the assessment, you're gonna be starting with the hands outside here. When you did the drill, you were at about 6 inches, then you guys can be split over the knee. If you were way above 6 inches when we did the drill, you guys can try expert level. Cool? Not many experts here, but if you can do this, you're on your way to being an in. Okay, so what I want us to do is we're going to give some contract, relax stuff, just like the ankle, where we have things working. So I'll be here to join the majority of you guys. What we're going to do first, before we lift that foot, is we're going to think about pressing the inside of your knee and inside of your ankle down into the ground. So you're here, we're pressing that back knee and back ankle down into the ground. You should feel muscles turning on as you're doing that, and we're going to give it for 10 seconds. Try to keep the pressure consistent. It's easy to create pressure shortly and then lose it, but try to keep the pressure there. Once you relax that, now we're lifting that back foot again, and we're holding for 10, 9, 8, I don't know if I hear anyone breathing, good, 3, 2, and relax. So it should be easier for a lot of you if you're rotated out here, okay? Again, if that now felt too easy, you can kind of work your hands back towards that front knee. Does that make sense to everyone? All right, ready? We're gonna do a couple reps just so we're familiar with it. We're gonna be pushing down into the ground. Ready? 10 seconds, and go. Push. It's hard sometimes to get the knee and the ankle to push equally. Really try to focus on that. We're getting the muscles on the inside of the thigh to be active here. And then we're relaxing, keep your knee down, and lift that back foot. Good. Lift. Hold. 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 And relax. Good. Let's flip to the other side. Do the same thing. Awesome. So as we go through these workshops, people tend to dislike me more and more. So do what you can. I think the goal here is to make it work, right? We're not here to make it cramp. So if you feel like you're close to that, then regress the position a little bit or make your foot not quite as high. I want you to be able to hold for the whole period of time, not cramp and have to get out of it. Okay, so same thing. Find a position that works for you, whether you're rotated way out here, split over the front knee, or hands up, okay? So we're going to push down into the ground for 10. Inside of that knee and the inside of that ankle. Push in, keep breathing. I want to hear some people breathing. Good job. Keep pushing, consistent pressure, and then knee stays down, foot lifts up. Lift, lift, lift. Good. Awesome. Lift, lift, lift. 3, 2, and good. I'll have you guys do one more rep at your own pace here. 10 seconds down, 10-second lift. I see a lot of people already being a lot more comfortable in the position. Sometimes it's, your body just is new to something, right? It's going to panic a little bit. The more you can be there and breathe and show that it's okay, it it gets comfortable pretty darn quickly. For those people who just worked out, that may not be the case right now. Good job. And once we lift, we can get our legs back out in front of us and get out of that horrific position. Good job. Really, really good. Cool. Does that drill make sense? Does that drill hard? So let me tell you, if you want to get carryover to hard exercise, the rehab and corrective exercises you do have to also be hard, right? Like that's why PT, I am a physical therapist, but like PT as a whole is really crappy a lot of times, right? Because someone who needs to go squat heavy and deadlift heavy and jump is doing like yellow bands sitting on a table in the practice, right? There's absolutely zero chance that will ever carry over to what you guys actually wanted to. So the drills have to be matching intensity and make you feel like I don't want to do this anymore for them to be really, really effective. Cool? So let's do one more hip drill. It's not nearly as bad as that one. I see a lot of people do, like it's a really common one, people do like fire hydrants and stuff like that, or like just kind of hip circles in general. These are called hip cars, it's like the fancy name, controlled articular rotation. It's basically hip circles on steroids, is what it is, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take your hip through its full range of motion, emphasizing a couple pieces that are really important for the squat, that internal rotation, be excruciatingly slow with the movement, and making sure we're not compensating with our back, right? That's why I like that 90-90 position, making sure we're not moving that torso. We're gonna do the same thing here, okay? So you guys can watch me first. It's not super complicated, but we need to put a lot of effort into it. So hands and knees, our back's gonna be nice and flat, not super rounded, not crazy arched, right? And position one, or step one, is gonna be driving the knee to the outside of the elbow, as far as you can go at least. Then we're gonna slide our knee out to the side. Once we get there, rotating foot up towards the ceiling. That's the most important part. That's the internal rotation of that hip. Rotating foot towards the ceiling, bringing it all the way back in line with our body, and then tapping the knee down. Then we reverse it, right? Kicking up until we hit a wall, then drawing a big circle forward with that knee. I want you guys to pay attention to a couple things, right? So driving up to the elbow probably won't be too hard. What I see a lot is when people slide the leg out, they start to do this, okay? I want you guys to imagine you're balancing a glass of water on your back, okay? I want your back to not tilt or move. For people who feel like they have a lot of tension, kind of on this upper glute and lower back, a lot of times it's because you can't separate movement from your hip, from your pelvis and back, right? We need them to be two separate structures and be able to do things on their own that can really help that, okay? So, again, here, rotating up, coming back. About this speed is what you're gonna go. Touch the knee, coming up, coming forward. Let's go through a couple of those together. All right, so what I want you guys to all do first is get in a good flat back position, okay? Make sure we're all there. Good awareness. Okay, good job. I want your eyes now towards the ground here too. I don't want to be cranking on our neck. For us to be just watching me, I'll talk you through it. So we're gonna, whichever side you want to start with, we're gonna slowly slide that knee towards the outside of that elbow. Good. Once you get there, slowly lift that leg out to the side, and then we're rotating that foot up towards the ceiling. Take it up towards the air. Bring that leg up and behind you in line with your body. And then that knee comes slowly back down. And then once you touch that knee, you reverse it. Take that up towards the sky, and then draw a big circle forward with that knee back towards your elbow. Good. Balancing the glass of water here. Just can't move. And do it again. Slow up towards your elbow. Slowly come back down. I'm going to give you something on your back. I'm going to give a couple people things on their back so they can be aware of positions without just sort of like a super heavy medicine on their back. So that's the thing.
Wait.
Cool. I want you to do 5 each side. Those look good. for almost everybody starts to move and go, really focus on your back, not moving it. Yeah, great question. You're gonna hold that right there. If that falls, you're moving your back too much. Now we're cooking. If you feel clicking, popping in your hip, that's a sign that your joint is not moving super efficiently, right? That's why we're doing this. That should get better over time. As long as it's not a painful clicker pop, totally normal, something that's going to get better. But if you think about it, what we're doing here is we're making all the muscles on every side of your joint have to turn on and off in a really coordinated fashion. If you have some muscles that are tight, some muscles that are weak, that rotation isn't going to happen as efficiently, and that's usually where you get that crickety, poppy, etc. That's way better. Good.
Holy smokes.
So a lot of times, I let people, especially if you're doing this at home, take a book, a shoe, a yoga block, put it on your back so you're really aware of your back position. Pretty much everyone's doing a good job now that we're really driving our attention there. But sometimes, especially if you're doing it at home, you're distracted, it's good to have an extra cue. 1, 2, 5, 5 on the other side. If you did more than that, I apologize. And then the dog can get distracted. Good. That was awesome. So again, just like all the ankle stuff, really simple movements. It's just where does your attention go and how consistently does it happen, right? It needs to be effort, effort, effort. We want to be pushing into your absolute end range without using the back.
Okay.
I can see a little shaking happening because
Okay.
you should be going slow enough and pushing hard enough into that range of motion that you get a little bit of muscle shake. And you might have to do a wrist thing next time. I see a lot of people shaking out their wrist here. Go ahead. Once you finish 5 there, we can pop back up on our feet and partner up for this last one.
Swing up the score.
Good news is the hard stuff is out of the way. The spine stuff is the ones that feel good. So really, really good. But just like the ankle, 2 drills that you can take that can go a really, really long way without bombarding yourself with a million drills you have to remember and progress them, etc. Right? So the 90-90, push it down into the ground, lift that back foot up, and then these hip circles, a great combo to be able to go and start to attack that, especially if you were someone who couldn't lift up to that 6-inch mark when you were doing the assessment. Cool? Does that make sense? You guys hate me yet? Alright, good. So let's pair up. I want everyone to get partners in a second here for the spine drills. The reason I think it's important is for you to really be able to see how far we're able to go. Okay, both of these tests are going to be in a or what do you call this now? Sorry, I don't want to be canceled. So crisscross applesauce position. If there's any teachers in here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to be testing some rotation of the spine. The reason I like this position is it eliminates a lot of the pelvis and hip movement that sometimes is thought of as spine movement, right? So we're going to do 2 things. One, we're going to do an extension position, right? As you guys drop into the squat, we need to be able to keep that chest up nice and tall. So we need good spine extension, especially like a hip hinge and all those positions. So what you're going to do is you're going to be up tall here, and you're going to arch backwards. We need to be able to get our shoulders behind our low back. If you cannot get your shoulders behind your low back position without falling, that's something that tells us we need to start to work on the mobility, right? It may seem like, of course, I can go that far. When you get here, you may start to then feel some pressure and cramping in the muscles in your low back, and you may just feel like you're hitting a wall. Sometimes it's surprising to people how tight they are through there. So that's one. And this is why I want you to have a partner, because they can watch you and see are your shoulders getting behind this low back. Okay? Number 2, also in this position, arms crossed, you are then going to rotate as far as you can. You should be able to get this shoulder pointing straight ahead, okay? Both ways. This side, I'm always tighter on. You can see I can't quite get to that to 90 degrees, get to 90 degrees, okay? If you just struggle with 1 out of the 3 positions, you're probably not in too bad of a spot. If you're not able to get to 2 out of the 3, this is a section that you really want to try to focus on. If you can't keep that chest up and stay extended in a squat or hinge, all the pressure is going to go to your low back, and that's how you traditionally get low back pain, right? We want the rest of the spine to really be able to stay nice and extended. As long as our hips and ankles are going to be open, which they are, not of those drills, we'll be able to stay up nice and tall, minimize the low pressure on the lower back. Cool? So let's get partners, and I want everyone to test each other on extension, rotation, rotation. Okay? Now bounce around. Really? Good job. Yeah, you guys can watch each other. Be picky, don't be nice. Yeah. So you can just stand behind them. Yeah. So and then arch. So see how kind of here's his low back line. He's not behind that, right? So he has trouble. There you go. Do you feel cramping and pressure there? Okay. A little bit there. Yeah. So it should be pretty easy to get behind that line. So I would say this is not something we're passing right now. Cool. And then check the rotation. Really good. Well, you're just gonna do one at a time. So like watch her first and then go. Yeah. So you're gonna be the side. You're gonna see. So see how this is her low back line? She's getting this across.
My right side.
That's still. You should be able to get a little bit of since I'm thinking, I'd say. It's not bad. Yeah, so that makes sense. And I bet check the rotation so you can see her from the front, and then see if you can rotate that shoulder all the way straight or not. Good, that side. That's not too bad. Yep, and then rotate the other way. A little bit harder that side. You feel tighter on that side too. So like rotating to the right and the extension for you are definitely on the tighter side. So I would say
I'm telling you, that's it.
but yeah.
That's it. Okay.
Totally separate.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. If you do them together, you're definitely going to be tighter. Good. Cool. Finish this up. Raise your hand if you passed all 3 with flying colors. Oh, let's give her a round of applause. Good job. So that's pretty rare. You know, unfortunately, the world that we live in is a very forward, not spine-movie world, right? So people tend to be very tight in these positions. Again, the majority of people that I saw were tight in at least 2 of them. So either not getting to 90 degrees or not getting those shoulders significantly past the low back. That's how you really need to work on some of this, right? And it's tough because we're taught so much, especially when we exercise, to not have any movement through there, right? We want the stability, but you also need to, outside of your exercise, start to improve that mobility so your muscles can stabilize you as much as possible. So we're gonna do one last drill. This is for the spine. This is one of my favorite drills that people just do when they wake up in the morning, or if you're someone who like ends up on your computer for 8 to 10 hours in a row, going to time warp or something, right? So this is a drill specifically focusing on getting your mid-back and kind of lower mid-back to work, right? Most people, we want stability through the low back, right? And we want a little bit more mobility through that mid-back region. So what you guys are gonna do is we're gonna start hands and knees. We're gonna sit our butt back to our heels, okay? That's gonna take out a lot of the movement from our low back. Then we're gonna drop one elbow to the ground. Then we're gonna put our hand behind our neck. So this is starting position, right? So we're really minimizing where movement can come from other than the mid-back, right? So elbows down, and if you guys, just make sure you can all see me here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna inhale at the bottom, and when we exhale, we're gonna try to rotate our chest bone up towards the sky, and then we'll inhale as we come back down, and then we're always rotating up on the exhale. What I don't want, and this is what many times people will do, is they'll just flare this elbow up towards the ceiling to make them feel like they're doing something, right? That's your shoulder moving. I only want your back moving. So what I want you to focus on is, see how when I start, my elbow's pointing forward and my chest is pointing forward? The elbow and chest need to move together, right? So keep that elbow tucked as you rotate. Don't let it flare up. Not trying to create shoulder pain here. We want to get you moving from your mid-back. So we're going to do 5 together. We're going to inhale at the bottom. Ready? Inhale. And then exhale and rotate. As far as you can, rotate. And then inhale as you come back down. Good. And then nice, long exhale as you rotate up. Good. Exhale, exhale. Good. And then inhale as you come back down. I should be hearing people exhale. If you're not exhaling fully, you're not going to get to your end range there. Really good. That elbow a little bit tighter if you can. Good job. One more on this side. Good. Keeping that elbow nice and tight. And good. Let's switch to the other side. So other elbow down. I'm going to do 5 reps. At your own pace here, because I see people kind of moving at different speeds based on their mobility. Inhale on the way back down. Exhale as you open up, right? Let's use that rib cage in a nice relaxed position to help us get open. Really good. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Good. Once you finish those 5, let's pop back on our feet. How your back's out there, though? Yeah, same, honestly. I'm trying to improve my golf game, so I'm trying to get my rotation to be better. Really good. So once you finish those, pop up, shake all that out. One last squat to full depth. So I want you guys to get back into that position of your feet that you found was really comfortable for you and allowed you to get the deepest. Whatever that is, right? We talked about toe out, whatever comfortable there, and with the feet. And we're gonna do 5 reps. Remember, keeping our weight through that area right at the front of our shoelaces, nice and slow. Now that we're opened up a little bit, it should feel a little bit more comfortable, except for those who maybe just worked out. But let's just do 5 of them, nice and slow. Cool. Good. Up tall, and then coming back up. Nice 5 slow ones. Don't let those toes pop up. You need to keep that pressure appropriate. Really good. And come back up. That was awesome. Good. Like I said, the magic happens overnight. It actually is a little bit better. There you go. Once you finish the spot, shake it out. So remember, we went through 3 joints, right? We went assess the ankle joint. We have 2 drills to the ankle joint. We went through the hip joint, 2 drills to the hip. We went through the spine, kind of gave you one all-encompassing drill for that. I encourage you guys to please put your email on there so I can send you it. Things disappear very quickly the second you go and just start grocery shopping on a Sunday, right? So if you want to try to work on these because you felt a lot of those assessments were challenging, then throw your email in there. I'll send you those tonight. You guys can pick up with them. I will also send all of you guys a free 30-minute consult coupon. So if you do have pain or something like that, you just want to come in to chat about it and get some stuff and get that process going, please take advantage of that. Everything we do is one-on-one for an hour. You guys will all be seeing me specifically, so we'll be able to work on it. We're in a gym setting, so we can test anything you guys need to. Again, my name is Dr. Kyle Paxton. I practice Stanford Performance Care. Thank you guys. I appreciate you.